Mistakes in Civilization VI can be more devastating than financial gurus are to desperate dumbasses. So in this Civ 6 video, I'll give what I think to be 5 huge mistakes that everybody makes, and even a bonus one being not subscribing to the TheCivLifeR. And also let me know your thoughts down below, and let's get started. Like your first time, we really want to ease into this one, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do with a pretty basic mistake that not everyone does, but I feel like doesn't get enough love, and that is neglecting your military. No, your starting warrior and the children from Avatar are not a good enough force to fend off the barbarians, who seem to be as endless as doom monsters in every single game. You need a well-regulated early military with a couple warriors and slingers early on to not only defend against the uncivilized scum invading your lands, but also the slightly less uncivilized scum, because nothing says Civ 6 more than the AI whispering, "Bend over," as they swarm your capital with 8 warriors. An early military can mean the world between an easy start with expansion and production growth, and getting beat up by the game so badly you'd be mistaken for a convicted pedophile in prison. The best way to build an early army is to get a couple slingers and warriors, get agoge from craftsmen before getting an early archery rush, depending on your situation with barbarians and other civs. But in most cases, getting about 2 to 3 warriors and 2 to 3 slingers eventually into archers are more than enough for a solid early defense to defend against any barbarian rush or any other civs who are looking at your lands more thick than a bowl of oatmeal. The most important part is getting that tier 1 promotion for both archers and warriors for a massive power boost, because by hitting the right notes in your voice with battle cry, you immediately become more stacked than the 2016 warriors with a 33% increase in combat strength, probably a little more than that because 7 is a little bit over 1/3 of 20, which is absolutely huge, meaning if you have, 3 warriors with battle cry, that equals the equivalent in power of a 4th warrior. And it's pretty much the same thing with archery, although I'd recommend getting at least 1 archer to have the garrison promotion, because then you'd get 10 combat strength when you're inside the city center, which is huge. In any case, just don't neglect your military. It depends on any game. If there's no barbarians or other civs nearby, then you really don't need to build one, and if you're able to make friends with the nearby civs and there are no barbarians, again, you probably don't need one, but in most games you are going to need a slightly military to fend off the horde of invaders. Oh boy, I'm about to get massacred like a Russian in the 20th century in the dislike and comment section, but I don't give a fuck. I'm dying on this hill. I'd rather shove a dildo-shaped cactus up my urethra than build a scout. I absolutely despise them. Now, Civ 5 scouts, when they had no movement penalty, they could cross a river and then climb up on a hill, that was great. That was good. That was awesome. I loved Civ 5 scouts. But Civ 6 scouts do not spark any sort of joy. They get 1 extra movement speed in Civ 6 in a game where now you need movement speed to move up on hills. In Civ 5, for example, if you moved on a plains tile, you could still move on a hill tile with any unit as long as you had any move speed left. But in Civ 6, you need the required amount of move speed or maximum move speed in order to move on rough terrain. Really? You're gonna get like 10 extra total tiles explored in like 50 turns because moving across a river or in a forested hilly area, they move about the same as a warrior. If they had some use after the first 50 turns even, I'd still build them. But my condoms see as much usage as scouts in Civilization 6, less than 2 minutes. And how many more ruins are you going to get with scouts, which seems to be the main counter argument? Oh, you're gonna get more goody huts as scout. No, you're not. What? 1, 2, 3 maybe at the most, and that doesn't even take into account that on Deity, they already start with just a huge jacked up military, so you're always going to get the ruins that are around your general location, or the ones that you're lucky enough that the other civilizations haven't discovered. It's still not enough even if you get 3 extra ruins, seeing as how you're going to be wasting production as the scouts are useless in the mid game, and you can't even guarantee you're going to get any more ruins than you would with another type of of unit. Exploration doesn't really matter after you get the surrounding area and every civ met, right? Because after you get the surrounding area where you're going to be able to settle your cities, what does it matter that you can see what's on the other side of the world that you'll never get to? It just doesn't make too much sense in my opinion. I mean, is the era score from natural wonders going to make any sort of difference? Finally, scouts are cheaper than any other unit, which is nice, but if you spend an extra 1 to 2 turns for a slinger or warrior, and you get to keep those units for 200 turns longer, I mean, you're gonna use scout line units as the backbone of your army? And if you meet a barbarian early on, just say your prayers. These guys have about as much offensive punch as this giraffe after snorting a brick of cocaine. And if you get a slinger, you can still get the archery eureka, which probably makes up for the extra turn or two that's going to take you to build the slinger. You'd get archers earlier for a better military, as outlined in Mistake 1. I mean, why would you just build any scouts at all? If you get them promoted, sure, they then become a lot better at exploring. But most of the time when they do get promoted, you've already explored all the lands that really mean anything to you, so there's really no point in that unless you get the survey policy card to get them promoted a little faster, which is a great option if you ever wanted to taste some barbarian schmeat in the early game. They don't get promoted unless you're lucky or it's already the mid game, in which case hold this fat L. My point is, scouts aren't much better at exploring than any other unit. One extra move speed isn't going to really do anything, and the other units last a lot longer with better upgrade past, just like you'll live longer, and get longer by leaving a like and subscribing to not only get a jawline like Tamar's that can break titanium, but to not miss out on future content. And not to mention that after reaching borders like mountains or the sea or other civs, and you know your surrounding area, scouts become useless, as it doesn't matter if you discover what the Incans halfway across the world have a more godly start than Civ 6 YouTubers do. Wait a minute. Does this count as suicide? The third mistake isn't really one too many people make, although it is something that could help you if you're a new player, I guess. Early game ships aren't units. They act like regular units, with about as much acting talent as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. They just suck. Unless you're in a sort of archipelago and you need to explore, they're genuinely more useless than scouts. Now that takes some talent. Now, with 4 to 5 galleys, you can take out coastal cities in 2 to 3 turns max, which seems really good, but the caveat is that the city has to be on a fucking island. Most cities on the coast have no more than 2 spots to attack with naval units, and since they can't heal on the oceans, good luck doing anything in the early game. And if you do, good luck with loyalty, as you're gonna have to try to keep cities that are literally halfway across the globe. And if they're not, then you might as well just use land-based military. Ships in this game are useless until frigates come out of nowhere, and then naval battles turn into something worthwhile. But unless you made the mistake of picking Archipelago, ships are gonna cost half your manhood, or womanhood, let's not discriminate, as their production costs are through the roof. And unlike real life where they can travel rivers, these dudes are stuck at sea, so in most maps, they're about as isolated and respected as this fucking weeb is in Japan. I know most people don't build ships already, but if you're going to go for a galley rush, or, God forbid, a Norway galley rush, please reconsider for the sake of your mental health. There always seems to be that subset of players in any video game looking down at others like, oh, you're playing with mods, I see. Yeah, these people think that playing an all-natural game is just as manly as their all-natural body odor. Bro, take a shower first, and then go download some mods. Now, I understand changing the game too much is like screaming your sister's name during fun time, and it can be a huge turnoff. But there are a lot that just give you quality of life changes, like better map tax, better trade deals, better quality of life in general, and many others. Not to mention some great modded civs like Iceland, Italy, Siam, Starvation Central, and many more. If you're ever feeling bored, just download some mods. And if you're not feeling bored, download some mods. They really do make the game a lot more enjoyable, and they can make the experience 100 times better and even help spice up a game that really starts to get a little boring after the first 1,000 hours. Finally, the mods I use are nothing but top quality creme de la creme. If I had Gordon Ramsay come test these mods out, he'd give me his Michelin stars, and then he'd spit out the chicken I made saying, "This shit's so raw, it's gonna keep clucking till it comes out of my ass." And the mods are gonna be on the screen. The final mistake is believing climate change is real. In Civilization VI. Calm down, Comrade Susan. Now, the side effects of climate change in this game are so tame, it probably created more climate change deniers than anything else. You get more disasters, which can be avoided 90% of the time, including increased sea levels with flood barriers and floods with dams. So, yeah, keep those factories at 100% production. We got more coming next week. Unless you get to the highest level of climate change, where even floods can happen even if you have a dam after it breaks, it really doesn't matter for the most part, even though climate change was meant to be a decision to make on whether your industry is really worth the destruction of the planet. And it is. Climate change is easily avoidable, and the drawbacks are massive for not building factories. Wasting production on climate projects like CO2 recapture are really a waste of production unless you're going for a diplomatic victory or you need the rewards, especially that late in the game. And also, giving up coal and oil power plants to save the planet just decreases the amount of production you can have, and in the late game, taking another 2 to 3 turns to build everything is just going to slow you down faster than a horse riding with Tammy on its back. There really isn't anything that active climate change investment does for you, because again, disasters are avoidable, and even the ones that aren't going to be catastrophic. Unless your cities are in between 3 different volcanoes each, you'll be fine. So, in conclusion, the Lorax is an op, and the climate change doesn't matter, so go fuck up the planet with a bright smile on your face. Like and subscribe before letting me know down below what you thought of these mistakes and any other big ones that others might benefit from, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.